15 universes. Each major NASA mission tracks a single object, hour by hour, minute by minute, not to detect threats, but to find answers. 3I Atlas, the third known space object, is hurtling through our solar system at 137,000 miles per hour. It's exhibiting behaviors no comet should exhibit. Streams of gas are being ejected toward the sun. Data has been kept secret for 42 crucial days. The mission planners have remained silent. Why is there such a haunting? Why is it happening at this particular time? The official story is riddled with plot holes. This investigation begins with the sheer scale of the chase and the reasons behind it, which no one has been able to explain to this day. Hubble's schedule allows observation of a target moving at 137,000 miles per hour. The Deep Space Observation Network allocates time to multiple antennas, solar observatories, typically pointed toward the sun, are reprogrammed to capture a faint streak of light in bright conditions. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter has loaded a new set of commands. It photographed a moving dot from millions of miles away, the Lucy spacecraft en route to Trojan asteroids, rotated its camera to capture a series of long exposure images. The Psyche spacecraft, designed to study a metallic planet, shifted from its primary mission to taking some astronomical photographs. The Stereo A telescope, orbiting Earth at very high distances, superimposes dozens of frames. The Punch telescope, built to observe the solar wind, captures a time-lapse sequence of images of the strange object passing through its field of view. The SOHO coronal telescope, which typically tracks solar storms, captures a faint, bright spot over several days. The JWST telescope, with its schedule set years in advance, opens a new avenue for deep infrared observation. Even ground-based telescopes are racing against time to track the object as it glides past Mars and toward the sun. Mission planners coordinate across continents. Each spacecraft has a different perspective: Earth orbit, Martian orbit, and the crew's view from the sun. Data is transmitted in batches, raw images. Telemetry datasets, time-stamped logs. Some missions focus solely on immediate targeting. Others track objects as they enter the observation area. The observation campaign spans from within the solar system all the way to deep space. NASA's own terminology calls this a fleet-wide response. ESA confirms that resources on Mars have participated in this effort, providing a perspective not obtainable from Earth. Never before has an interstellar object compelled humanity to mobilize an observation campaign on such a large scale as 3I Atlas. Unlike Oumuamua or Borisov, this time all signs point to tightly organized coordination missions are more intensive. Tracking times are longer, and real-time adjustments are constantly underway. Observation schedules are rewritten. Telescopes are repositioned. Multiple spacecraft track the object for hours at a time to record a continuous sequence of images, while other instruments add thousands of discrete frames, creating a data trove that grows exponentially. The result is a chaotic yet overwhelming picture, pieced together from every corner of the solar system. The official goal was simply to collect as much data as possible before the object vanished. But the scale of mobilization, from numerous control centers to research teams from multiple nations, suggests a seriousness far beyond the surface claims. The intensity of the pursuit is clear, but its underlying reasons remain shrouded in mystery. The discovery on June 14 2025, from the Atlas survey sent shock waves through the astronomical community. Images captured on July 1 confirmed a rare anomaly, a hyperbolic object hurtling through the solar system at nearly 137,000 miles per hour, enough to cover a distance greater than the Earth-Moon distance in a single day. The official report concluded succinctly but hauntingly it would never return. Named 3I Atlas. This is the third interstellar visitor ever discovered by humans, after Oumuamua and Borisov. Oumuamua was controversial due to its strange shape and lack of a cometary tail. Borisov was more typical, but still outlier. 3I Atlas, however, breaks all the mold. Unusual velocity, an orbit extending far beyond the sun's constraints, and an eccentricity large enough to rule out any possibility of return. All of this suggests it originated from the cold, dark interstellar space where matter has accumulated over billions of years. Although the solar system is home to billions of comets, humanity has only witnessed material from another star system pass by 3 times. And if Oumuamua was breathtaking, and Borisov possessed the serene beauty of an extraterrestrial comet, then 3I Atlas immediately triggered an unprecedented level of global focus and strategy, a response befitting the rarity and mystery of this visitor from distant space. Survey teams closely monitored every subtle change in 3I Atlas's orbit, constantly updating data, because even a delay of a few days could mean the permanent loss of a research opportunity. Its brightness and activity suggested it was a comet, but its orbit told a far more unusual story. Every parameter was valuable, potentially revealing matter from an ancient cold star system or one with a completely different chemistry. Some researchers even posed the bold question, did this anomaly contain traces of processes beyond the realm of current physics? Or even suggest a deliberate scenario? The scale of the tracking reflects the importance of the event, from satellites and orbital telescopes to ground-based observatories. Every instrument is focused on a single target hurtling through space. This is not just an icy comet, but a rare opportunity to explore the history of distant worlds before 3I Atlas disappears into the interstellar darkness. Humanity is racing to gather every clue, for no one knows when such a visitor will arrive again, and whether it will bring answers or unveil more mysteries. Historically, observations of comets have followed a seemingly immutable rule. The comet's tail points away from the sun. But Atlas 3I has broken that rule. In late November, images from Hubble and ground-based telescopes captured a strange structure surrounding the nucleus. It is a 40 kilometers wide cloud of gas, from which extends a 60 kilometers band of matter toward the sun. It doesn't bend, isn't deflected by radiation, and doesn't behave like any comet ever recorded. This phenomenon is not image, noise, or instrument malfunction. Multiple independent observation groups have confirmed and ruled out prospective aberrations. As 3I Atlas moves deeper into the inner solar system, the viewing angle changes, but its sun-facing structure remains the same, challenging all existing understanding of how comets interact with solar light and wind. Some groups call the structure a smoke column, others a reverse tail. But the name is less important than its bizarre geometric shape. For weeks, this unusual feature persisted, a band of material pointing directly toward the sun, while the traditional dust tail extends in the opposite direction. Surrounding the comet's core are streams of material radiating in both directions, some nearly 1 million kilometers long. The main tail, so faint that it requires contrast enhancement to be visible, stretches for more than 3 million kilometers like a fading silver thread in space. It was this paradoxical band of matter pointing toward the light source that shocked the scientific community, because according to all classical models, it shouldn't exist at all. Dust from comets should be carried away immediately by the solar wind, and even large, heavy particles couldn't withstand the radiation pressure. Yet here, a dense and sharp structure remained in place, seemingly defying the laws of astronomy used for over a century. Research groups are working to find an explanation. Some suggest it's a projection effect, where a layer of dust aligned in orbit inadvertently creates the appearance of a reverse tail. Others suspect a large cluster of debris released during a fragmentation event, temporarily heavy enough to counteract the thrust of the solar wind. However, observational data on the length, brightness, and stability of the structure make both hypotheses unconvincing. Its behavior doesn't match any type of anti-comet tail ever recorded in history. The language NASA used in the report was carefully considered, and they simply called the phenomenon unprecedented. No complete explanation was offered. Images released at press conferences and technical updates continued to show a shape that couldn't possibly appear according to current physics models. The reverse tail phenomenon is real, but its cause remains a gray area between knowledge and mystery. For monitoring teams at observatories and control centers around the world, this is both a major puzzle and a direct challenge to modern astrophysics. The data is clear, but the models can't keep up. And in those quiet moments between frames, the question lingers. One no one wants to ignore. What is keeping that band of matter aligned with the sun? And what does that mean for everything we believe about comets coming from other star systems? On October 1st, the federal government shut down. NASA's communications department was suspended. Space missions remained on as they were classified as essential. But all public information, press releases, new images, technical updates suddenly disappeared. This timing could hardly be considered a coincidence. Comet 3I Atlas was approaching perihelion, its most active phase, and just days earlier, on October 3rd, it had flown past Mars. October 29th was its closest approach to the sun. Behind the veil of silence, the scientific campaign continued as normal. Telemetry data continued to be collected, and teams of engineers and scientists in the special program continued to work tirelessly. But for the public, those 6 weeks were an absolute void. No images, no analysis. No explanation whatsoever of one of the strangest interstellar objects ever to appear in the solar system. When the government reopened on November 12, things were vastly different. During those crucial 6 weeks, 3I Atlas underwent dramatic transformations. It brightened faster than expected, turning an unusual blue hue for a comet near perihelion. And instruments in orbit recorded signs of ungravitational acceleration, suggesting its orbit was being influenced by a force other than the sun's gravity. All the data was recorded precisely hour by hour. But the public was completely unaware, while Hubble, SOHO, stereo, and other Mars instruments continued to operate quietly. The story of 3I Atlas remains behind NASA's internal systems. The outside world relies on a few international astronomy groups and amateur observers who are forced to work with a severe data shortage because all the best instruments are locked away in NASA's silent data repository. Those weeks dragged on in uncertainty. Atlas 3, I glided past perihelion. exhibiting unprecedented behavior, then hurtled out of the inner solar system at incredible speed, and NASA remained silent. It wasn't until November 19th that the agency released a package of images and a summary report containing data collected throughout the government shutdown. There was no explanation for the delay, no mention of the 6 weeks of media blackout, no explanation as to why the most critical period took place in the shadows. The timeline is clear enough to be concerning every key event falls precisely at a time when NASA isn't releasing any information. Data is still flowing in. Systems are still functioning, but a deliberate, or at least unusual, silence hangs over the entire story. And the lingering question remains, was it all simply the consequence of a malfunctioning administrative system, or a calculated decision to conceal something at the most crucial moment? On November 19, the press briefing room at NASA headquarters was packed with reporters and television crews. On the podium, Deputy Administrator Amit Kshatriya began with a blunt statement: 3I, Atlas is a comet. It looks like a comet, behaves like a comet. And all available evidence, according to NASA, points to a natural origin. His presentation was slow and deliberate. The slides displayed telescope noise, UV spectral graphs, and sequences of images from Hubble, SOHO, and various other spacecraft. All depicted a dispersed cloud of dust and gas with a faint tail, so familiar it was like an illustration from an astronomy textbook. NASA scientists explained the release of matter-water vapor, CO2, and dust evaporated as the comet entered the inner region of the solar system. The tightly controlled presentation repeatedly emphasized its hyperbolic orbit and interstellar nature, asserting that 3I Atlas poses no danger to Earth. During the Q&A session, the press focused on the scale of the observation campaign and the number of missions involved. A NASA spokesperson maintained the stance that this was a rare scientific opportunity, not a threatening event. The word unusual was almost entirely absent. When asked about the unusual features in the imaging data, NASA shifted the focus to the complexity of multi-device data and the need for careful interpretation. Spectroscopy was mentioned, but only in a general sense, without detailed chemical data or compositional analysis. Even the most remarkable phenomenon, the inverted tail structure, which is currently the subject of debate in the research community, has only received cautious acknowledgement from NASA. They call it an ongoing area of research, using the phrase unprecedented, but always in the context of reflecting the observation process, not the characteristics of the object itself. Many big questions remain unanswered: the unusually rapid brightening, the blue shift in the spectrum, the signs of gravity-defying acceleration. However, the narrative NASA presents to the public still revolves around interstellar orbit, the mission coordination efforts, and the scientific potential of the data collected. When the press conference concluded, the official position became clear: 3I Atlas, according to NASA, was simply a comet from a distant star system. What was released consisted of processed images, simplified spectra, and safety and docility statements. But beyond that, delayed data, unexplained details, inconsistencies quietly persisted amidst the growing mystery and curiosity of the world. When JPL reran all the data, they discovered that 3I, Atlas's orbit, didn't match the standard model of the object, deviated by about 35 square kilometers per day. This error persisted for weeks, even during perihelion and when flying near Mars, suggesting an anti-gravity force was acting on it. This phenomenon had been seen with Oumuamua, but on a much larger scale. The gas escape, the classic explanation for comets, didn't fit the amount of water, vapor, and dust was too weak. And the direction of the deviation didn't match the explosion model. The retrograde orbit of 3I Atlas makes the story even more difficult to explain. It moves almost exactly on the ecliptic plane, but in the opposite direction to the planets. An extremely rare orbit for an interstellar object. Cosmological age models suggest it could be 7 billion years old. 3 billion years older than the solar system, carrying matter from the pre-Earth era. JPL continuously updated its models, but the gap between predictions and reality remained unbroken. Spectroscopic data was even more perplexing. Some instruments detected water vapor, while others showed a predominance of CO2, quite unlike typical comets. Most notably, the spectra showed nickel but no iron. A paradox, since these two elements are always found together in every comet observed. These anomalies left the origin of the material an open question. NASA has only released general data. Detailed spectra have yet to appear in any peer-reviewed papers. Despite caution, researchers must acknowledge that 3I Atlas does not behave like a typical comet. This sparked debate when Avi Loeb suggested there was a 30–40% chance it wasn't entirely natural based on its retrograde orbit, gravity-defying acceleration, and seemingly deliberate material flows. He even suggested its perihelion resembled a bremsstrahlung. The mainstream scientific community strongly opposed this. Jason Wright argued there was no evidence of technological interference and that any anomalies must first be explained by natural mechanisms. On social media, the polarization was even stronger. About 40% of the content about 3I Atlas related to the alien hypothesis, especially when NASA delayed the release of the data. On December 19th, 3I Atlas made its closest approach to Earth at 170 million miles. This was the last opportunity for observation before it faded and disappeared forever. The global network of telescopes and spacecraft was racing against time. Hubble, Punch, Stereo, Lucy, Psyche, MRO, all were sending back massive amounts of data, although much of the data from September–October remained unprocessed. Observations became increasingly difficult because 3I Atlas was almost perfectly aligned with the Sun, causing its light to be overwhelmed. The spacecraft had only a few minutes of safe observation. The software and sensors had to be pushed to their limits, but all the risks were considered worthwhile, because each spectrum and each light curve could hold the solution to anomalies, rapidly increasing brightness, blue hues, unusual chemistry, unusual acceleration, and deviated orbits. No one knows whether the final observation will reveal the truth or deepen the mystery. One thing is certain after December 19th. 3I Atlas will be out of sight forever, and the solar system will have only one chance to understand it. The question is whether the available data, however raw, delayed, or still under security, is sufficient to explain what happened, or whether, as in the case of Oumuamua, the most crucial details will remain out of reach, locked away in silence after the guest leaves. Official answers rarely keep pace with the data. As the 3I Atlas spacecraft left interstellar space, even the most sophisticated instruments on Earth were unable to resolve all the inconsistencies. They only confirmed the remaining unknowns. In this age of unprecedented observation, the gap between what is gathered and what is revealed is widening. Some mysteries do not fade with time, but may even become clearer What are we still missing? Share your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel